Okay, boys and girls, we're going to read The Little Red Riding Hood by Nadia Higgins, illustrated by Kathleen Pidlenske. And the test number, boys and girls, for Reading Renaissance is 1618110. The book level is 4.0, and the points, boys and girls, is zero point 0.5, half a point. Okay, Little Red Riding Hood, boys and girls. Once there was a kind girl who was a bit of a dreamer. She lived in a village on the edge of a vast forest. The girl had a special friendship with her grandmother, who lived in the next village over. The old woman delighted in the child's fanciful stories and unusual gifts. For the previous Christmas, Granny had knitted her a beautiful red sweater with a hood. The girl had scarcely taken it off since. That is why everyone started calling her Little Red Riding Hood, or Little Red for short. One day Little Red's mother woke her up just as the sun peeked over the treetops. "Granny is ill," the woman said. "I need you to take her some soda biscuits and ginger cookies and ginger tea." The mother set a basket down by the door. "The sooner you leave, the better," she said, trying to hide the concern in her voice. She knew that great dangers lurked in the dark woods between their home and Granny's. "I want you back before dark, and remember, no dilly-daddling. Keep to the path." Little Red was worried about Granny, but she also could not believe her good fortune. This adventure meant she was excused from morning chores, and she had made up a new story that she was eager to share with Granny. Crunch, crunch! Little Red stomped on the brown leaves that lined the path to Granny's house. She breathed in the earthy smells. She closed her eyes and felt the warm sunlight on her eyelids. When she opened them, she gasped in delight. There in the distance was a sugar maple all dressed up in royal red leaves. Wouldn't they make a fine bouquet for dear old Granny? And so it was that Little Red Riding Hood quite forgot her mother's stern words. The foolish girl skipped off the sunny path into the forest. As Little Red walked toward the tree, she was so focused on looking at the leaves that she did not hear the pat-pat of a wolf walking toward her, nor did she hear the soft slurp of the animal licking his lips. The hungry wolf had been eyeing Little Red from the path. He knew he could not gobble her up right away, however. A huntsman was nearby, and her screams would certainly cause the man to come running with his gun. The wolf would have to use a trick. "Whee!" Little Red squealed as she scooped up great handfuls of leaves. One by one she held them up and examined them. She would place only the most perfect ones in her basket. The wolf approached her. "Hello, friend," he said to Little Red in a gentle voice. He held out a most splendid crimson leaf. "Would you like this?" "Why, hello!" Little Red startled at the sight of the shaggy wolf, but when she saw what the wolf was offering, her heart melted, and she smiled back. She added the leaf to the small bunch she had gathered. "What's your name?" asked the wolf. "I'm known as Little Red Riding Hood," she said politely. "What a pretty bouquet! Who is it for?" asked the wolf sweetly. "Oh, for Granny. Do you think she will like it?" Little Red gushed. She held out her creation. Then she frowned. "Oh, but I've only just started, and I'm awfully late to visit her." The wolf chuckled to himself, seeing his chance. He would soon gobble up this young prey and her old Granny as well. "Where's your grandmother's house?" he asked. I'll go ahead and let her know you're on your way." "Oh, would you?" Little Red said, delighted. She lived just past the mill, by the old split oak. As the wolf galloped away, Little Red called out after him, "Don't spoil the surprise." "Oh, I won't," the wolf thought, and he laughed out loud at his perfect plan. The wolf arrived at Granny's house in no time. He tapped on the door. "Who's there?" the poor woman called from her bed. "Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf said, doing his best to sound like the girl. "The key is under the flower pot," Granny called out in a creaky voice. Bam! After turning the key, the drooling wolf flung the door open and leaped into the cottage. He swallowed the old woman before she had a chance to scream. "Now for dessert," he said to himself. He put on one of Granny's nightcaps and climbed into bed. A while later Little Red called tentatively from the door, wondering why it was wide open. "Hello, Granny?" "Over here," the wolf called from the bed, making his voice high and creaky like an old woman's. "Come show me what you have brought me." How different Granny sounded! She must be very ill indeed, Little Red thought. She tiptoed inside the darkened room and squinted at the figure in the bed. "Come, come, my dear," the wolf coaxed, so Little Red moved toward the bed. How strange Granny seemed to Little Red. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have!" she exclaimed. "The better to hear you with," the wolf murmured sweetly. "And Granny, what big eyes you have! The better to see you with, my child." "And Granny?" Little Red's curiosity drew her even closer. "What big teeth you have!" "The better to eat you with," the wolf roared. With that he leaped up and gobbled the girl whole. By now the wolf was quite full. His belly bulged with his ill-gotten feast. "Ah!" the wolf yawned. He lay back in Granny's bed and was soon asleep. His thundering snores shook the cottage walls. The huntsman happened to be close by, and he heard those snores. "That doesn't sound right," he said. He walked through Granny's open door and saw who was snoring in the bed. It was the prized wolf he had been hunting for its pelt. The hunter saw the wolf was wearing a nightcap and noticed his huge, squirming belly. He easily guessed what had happened. The hunter shot the sleeping wolf and slit open the creature's furry stomach. Ooh! Little Red jumped out with terrified eyes. "Granny's in there too!" she screamed, and the hunter pulled out the gasping old woman. "Thank you," Granny said to the huntsman when she had caught her breath. "That wolf's pelt will draw you a fine penny." Then the old woman invited the hunter to lunch to thank him for saving her and Little Red's lives. As the three feasted on hot tea and biscuits, Little Red told her story from the very beginning, but she did not tell the made-up one she had planned to share with Granny. She explained the true story of running into the wolf in the woods. After a while Little Red Riding Hood felt brave enough to walk home alone. Never again did she stray from the path. However, she never closed her kind heart to any creature. Little Red still sometimes talked to forest animals, but only when she knew it was safe. Fairytales. The story of Little Red Riding Hood is known as a cautionary tale. That means it offers a warning. That warning could be, listen to your parents. What else could it be? This story has been told in one form or another for many generations. The first person to write it down was a Frenchman named Charles Perrault. He published it in 1697. In his version, Little Red Riding Hood is not rescued from the wolf's belly at the end. At the end of the tale, Perrault spells out the moral or lesson. He explains that wolves that are tame can be the most dangerous kind. What do you think that means? Why does the wolf act so nicely toward Little Red when they first meet? In 1812, Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm of Germany, better known as the Brothers Grimm, published another famous version of Little Red's story. That story is similar to the one you just read, but it ended quite differently. In their version, Little Red kills the wolf herself after the hunter frees her. After he slices open the wolf's belly, Little Red fills the animal's belly with stones so that it dies. In many versions, including the one you just read, the hunter kills the wolf. Why do you think the author made that change? The moral can sometimes be a little different too. The story told by the brothers Grimm insists that Little Red should not have strayed from the path and gone where she was told not to. Both traditional versions, especially Perrault's story, seem to stress that you should never talk to strangers. How does the version that you just read change that message a little bit? About the author. Nadia Higgins is the author of more than 60 books for children. She lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota with her husband and 2 daughters. About the illustrator. Kathleen Peetlinsk loves to draw and paint. She lives next to a lake in southern Minnesota with her husband Dale. 2 daughters, Leah and Anna. 2 dogs, Gary and Rex, and her fluffy cat, Emma. All right, thank you, boys and girls.